Hawaii and all the Pacific Island countries are part of Lemuria, the mountain remnants of the Lemurian civilization or the continent. When Lemuria was basically dissolving as a civilization and Atlantis was dissolving simultaneously, some of these Lemurians and Atlanteans went underground to create a new civilization, becoming the Agarthans, the inner Earth beings. Now, there are lots of other races that live within Earth as well, but specifically talking about the human type that were here. They've had enough time where they really are these fifth dimensional beings. If we are in a high enough vibrational state, then we can see them as well and experience them. As a civilization, they are in complete harmony with their environment, with each other. They're interested in coming to the surface in these light craft that they have. We've done a lot of really not great stuff to Mother Gaia. So they are trying to do whatever they can to keep that all in balance. Their craft are able to go in and out of the volcanoes and mountains and the water. These other beings that are visiting us or watching over us, they're also part of our family. We have them in our DNA. They're watching over us kind of parent-like, but they can't intervene against our free will. We are part of them.
Welcome, everyone. Today, I'm excited to dive deeper into the conversation on multidimensionality, on our galactic past, on the wisdom of our ancestors from the stars. I'm excited to have a special guest all the way from the Big Island in Hawaii. Dr. Lisa Thompson is Galactic Ambassador, a channeler, and a best-selling author. She has few books out there on Amazon, Wisdom of the Galactics and Connection to the Cosmos. And she's about to release another book on awakening and multidimensionality. Welcome, Lisa, to the Soul Communication Podcast. So happy to have you. I just recorded with you on your podcast. So I'm loving this exchange as we are sitting here today in this incredible moment in time with so much going on and changing. What excites your soul as you've been on this journey, writing these books, connecting to the cosmos, and doing incredible tours that you do on the Big Island, showing people the UFO sightings?
Thank you so much for having me here. It's great to be here with you, Deanna. I've been here on the Big Island for 4 years now. And what excites me the most over these past 4 years since moving here is really stepping into my full authentic self and not having to hide who I am and who I'm here to be, fully stepping into my role as Galactic Ambassador. For most of my life, I'm about to turn 52. I was hiding the parts of me that were everything galactic. I've been an experiencer, contactee my entire life, but I really wanted to be taken seriously in my other mainstream kind of businesses and careers. And so I feel now like I don't have to hide who I am. It's okay to really show up and live my real purpose that I'm here to do. And so getting to do that and being in my happy bubble here on the island, I feel very safe and protected here. And stepping into my full authentic self has allowed me to attract my tribe. And that includes people like you, the people that I have on my podcasts. And so expanding this global tribe of knowing that we're all here to do similar work and be light leaders and really help bridge that ascension to fifth dimension.
I agree with you. Being authentic these days really matters. Even sometimes, if we feel like we need to mold to the environment we're in, we still can be authentic. We can still operate from the heart. And I think these days, especially you and I, like those wayshowers who are out there to hold that vibrational frequency, it's so important for us to be the light in the room and for others to feel they have that opportunity. So, Lisa, I want to go back into your books, The Wisdom of the Galactics and the Connection to the Cosmos. How did you receive this information, first of all, and these books birth themselves? Just tell us a little more your story about how you channel, how exactly that information came through for you.
Yeah, I would be happy to. So the first one of those two that I wrote was Connection to the Cosmos. And the subtitle to that is Remembering Your Galactic Heritage and Embracing Your Oneness. And so that book was inspired after I started leading my night sky watch UFO tours here on the island. And with my guests, I was sharing my stories about my experiences of being on spacecraft throughout my childhood and then meeting my Arcturians in October of 2018. They were the first group that really showed up in a spiritual way for me. And so it took me about 4 years to really understand who I was in that realm. They wanted to channel through me. And so when I was writing the book, they were really like, okay, we want to channel, we want to share our wisdom. And I grew up in a spiritual school of enlightenment that was actually taught by a channel descended master. And so channeling was familiar to me, but it also back in the 80s and 90s, there was a huge stigma attached to it. And so I never thought myself that I would actually channel. But then fortunately, I did watch Ruben Langdon's series on interviews with EDs on Gaia. And that was like, oh, channeling can be more normal. It doesn't have to be.
I love that series. It came so timely. It really gave a lot of us the permission that channeling is actually needed. It was information that I think was important for us to collect for evolution of consciousness.
Yeah. And so watching his show and watching all the different
Mm.
kinds of channels that were out there and who they were channeling. Then when my Arcturians were like, we want to speak through you, I let it come through writing at first. But then through the process of writing the book, I did open up my vocal channel. I did take a channeling class so that I could feel more comfortable with that and learn some processes to really learn how to connect with the higher dimensional beings. And so they do share messages in that book, but it's also an educational book of some of the stuff that I teach on my UFO tours, but also some of the processes that I learned throughout my life in my spiritual school of enlightenment from that other channeled material. And so then after writing that book, so that came out in 2022, and then in January of 2023, my Arcturians, they were like, okay, you're comfortable with us and our energy. Now it's time to bring forth some of your other groups that you are related to, that you have connection with. They had me write down 12 additional names of galactic races. And I had no idea. Like, I had to work through this process and just trust that it was all divinely guided. And so basically, I set aside time over a few months to lead 13 different sessions. And each session allowed a specific galactic race to come through me. And I did this as a class online where people could sign up for whatever group they felt resonation with, or they could sign up for the entire bundle. And some people did. They did the whole 13 sessions with me. And during these sessions, what they really did was take people on journeys to fully be able to experience the information that they were sharing so that people could integrate it into their lives and embody it coming out of it. And that the 13 sessions then led to me writing Wisdom of the Galactics, channeled messages to elevate your life. And basically it is just dictated the channeling sessions with some extra information about the races. And so what I realized in the process of this, when I first met my Arcturians, it felt like a separation at first, but their message to me was, you are one of us, we are one of you, we are family.
Mhm.
And there was one that was more to the front that was the spokesperson. And the name that was given to me was Uluru. And now it took a little bit of time for me to figure out who Uluru was, but that's me in my Arcturian form. And in that Arcturian realm, I am a healer. Now, Arcturians are higher dimensional beings who don't need to heal themselves, but that energy from that Arcturian realm, I send myself energy down to this earth Lisa, this human Lisa, and that flows through my body, helping heal Earth as well as anyone I come into connection with, and then specifically my clients in these healing sessions. And so when I realized, okay, I'm just channeling myself, essentially, then it became much easier, much more comfortable. And with these other 12 groups, I realized the same thing. I'm like, I am a multidimensional being. This is just me in my other forms. There's nothing scary about it. There's nothing negative that's going to come out of it because they're all operating fifth dimension or higher. Most of them are way frequency in a much higher vibration. And so all of their messages are really from that higher perspective of love, unity. We are all connected. We are all one. And they just have slightly different things that they share within that concept. And I know it's just the tip of the iceberg. They've told me that other groups will come in, that I will be working with the other groups as well and go deeper with the ones I'm already working with.
That's incredible. That just shows that our little self that's here on Earth is so magnificent because it is connected to all these other aspects of ourselves. We are really universal and multi-universal because we're not just part of this universe, also from other universes, this infinite fractals of ourselves. And it's just beautiful that you were able to bring them all in. I love Arcturians. They connect to me a lot and they're very technical. Some other groups, I know there's like the popular ones that my listeners know, like the Pleiadians, the Lyrians. What are groups that surprised you that not as popular as others?
The ETs, they gave me my healing modality that I call Galactic Ascension Channeling. So I'm bringing forth that emotional healing of the Arcturians, but then the Sirians are coming through. I have a really great memory of a life as a Sirian where I was a genetic engineer. And so they're bringing forth that kind of more physical kind of healing, the nitty gritty DNA kind of healing in those sessions. And the Mantis are one of my absolute favorite groups to work with, and master geneticists, master healers, such great wisdom.
You and I love Mantis. That's why we found that connection with Tony. That makes sense. I've noticed on the ships, they usually, especially with the stories of abductees, there's little gray beings, but the Mantis are the ones who supervise. Is that kind of your experience? Which Mantis are you connected to? I've channeled only once this really massive energy that more like a founding father that needed some information to convey, and that was more in the frequency and light language. So there's very various mantis being smaller and larger.
There are. And the one that came through really was more advanced than the ones that are on the craft with the Zetas and the hybrids. Now, one thing that I do know, I am part of that Zeta human hybrid program. So I have my experience of being Zeta and really knowing that I volunteered to come here as Earth Lisa to be part of that program to create the hybrids. I have hybrid children. I haven't met them consciously yet, but I know that I will sometime soon. Actually, that part didn't really surprise me because I did throughout my life feel like there was always something where I was donating my eggs. And I have two earth children, earthbound children, but I never had any pregnancies that I was aware of where I knew exactly when my children were conceived here on earth, but I knew that other things were happening. When I got confirmation of that, I was like, okay, cool. And there's no fear around it. I know a lot of people have fear around feeling like they're being taken advantage of or it's against their will. And really, at that soul level contract, we all sign up for it. And so
That's
it's
right.
just a matter of remembering that we do.
A client recently, she also remembers a lot of abductions from childhood. She doesn't have her Earth children. And as we were talking, her hybrid children came into the field, and it just happens to be that I'm connected to them too, just because I had an experience in Sedona on Bashar ship a couple of times.
Mm.
And so I have direct access now to these Sunny and got a few races on that ship specifically, although myself have not volunteered any eggs or have
Okay.
signed any soul contracts. And it was fun because when I was on the ship, they were like, oh, you interested in that? I'm like, no, I'm just here to visit. I'm curious. But with this client, it was so incredible because 5 of her children showed up in the field. I was channeling and she started crying. It was just such a beautiful experience for her to know that even though she doesn't have children on Earth, she has other children as well.
Yeah, beautiful. None of them, I guess, surprised me, but when I was writing the names down, one of the groups were a group of reptilians. And I know that, at least out in the mainstream public, anyone who knows about reptilians or grays, they are like, they're negative. So I'm continually educating people about there's so many different races coming from all different star systems. They are operating in different frequencies. And so the reptilians that came through me, I don't know like where they're from, which star system, because that wasn't important in the information, but they were definitely higher vibrational beings who really wanted to bring forth messages of adaptability and transformation. And if we just think about real reptiles here on Earth, we can learn a lot about these different groups if we're looking at these different animals, because all of these have been seeded here. And that's one of the things that I have been able to understand in doing the work that I'm doing is I have been so many things throughout the universe and other universes, just like you have and we all have. And one of the things, I have a PhD in marine biology and zoology, and I love the biodiversity that we have here on Earth. I grew up obsessed with animals, and now I understand why, because one of the lives that I was overseeing Earth when the environment was being created before the animals came. And it was my job to tell whoever the powers that be, okay, it's time to bring the animals. And I was overseeing the seeding of the earth.
An Arcturian being?
No, I don't
No.
think necessarily.
Mm,
When I was in a regression, I was being
mm.
regressed. And I felt like I was energy. I wasn't part of a particular group. I am this energy that's holding space for Earth. Then I know that I am like a keeper of the DNA and am part of that whole biodiversity, which is why I had to do that career first, why I had to follow that path. And I was a scientist here, I'm a scientist in these other realms. So really understanding that about myself and like how we follow certain paths, even here on Earth, like what we're drawn to, has been pretty incredible. And knowing that, again, that all timelines exist simultaneously at the quantum level. And when we really understand that, then we can tap into these different multidimensional sides of ourselves because it's all there existing. And we also get to choose what timelines we want to be a part of. And so that's one of the big messages that the new book that I just submitted to my publisher is about, and helping people to really clear out any trauma, stuck emotions, getting over their judgment, their polarized reality, because that really, when we can clear all that away, then we're naturally shifting into that fifth dimensional reality where love and unity are divinely there.
So true. And also realizing that sometimes these traumas also come from the various aspects of ourselves in other systems that we came from. So we clear in not just the traumas here, but also clear in multidimensionally the traumas that we carry through space and time. But we also here to integrate them, right?
Yes.
So that is important to remember that we are a collection of all these experiences, and like Lisa, how you always been drawn to the same thing, understanding as a scientist how to create life. And creation of life is an incredible thing. It's very different probably on the other systems and other planets. I'm thinking about Andromedans, for instance, like how are they able to create on the ship these like biodiverse climates And you on a big island, when I'm thinking of biodiversity, there's 20 something microclimates on the big island.
Yeah, we have all but one of the microclimates of the world here on this one island.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And just even going in the ocean and being surrounded by the thousands of species, millions of species that are out there, it feeds my soul. I feel like I'm back home. I feel like
Mm.
I'm where I'm supposed to be. I do know. So, one of the things that we have here, we have a lot of the transmedium craft coming in and out of the water. What I understand about those is that those are our inner earth brothers and sisters, the Agarthans, coming and surveying the surface. But I do work with them in the astral realm. Basically, we're co balancing from within and from above. And so I'm feeding information to them, they're feeding information to me.
I've mentioned the inner earth beings before because I had my experiences at Mount Shasta and Machu Picchu, a couple of more places around the world, but I'm curious about these crafts because I didn't know that happens. Maybe tell us a little more about the Agartha network and what are they about? Why are they resurfacing now with these crafts?
Hawaii and all the Pacific Rim or the Pacific Island countries are part of Lemuria. So we are the mountain remnants of the Lemurian civilization or the continent. So when Lemuria was basically dissolving as a civilization and Atlantis was dissolving simultaneously, some of these Lemurians and Atlanteans went underground to create a new civilization, becoming the Agarthans, the inner earth beings. Now, there are lots of other races that live within Earth as well, but specifically talking about the human type that we're here like we are. Now, they've had enough time where they really are these fifth dimensional beings. And so they can choose to show themselves to densify enough for humans to see them. Or if we are in a high enough vibrational state, then we can see them as well and experience them. And I know I haven't been to Mount Shasta yet. It's on my
Mm.
list, but I do have a very good friend who met Saint Germain when she was at Shasta, and I know that he is one that he likes to show himself to people, and he's very recognizable. And so, what in a session that I was doing with one of my friends, I discovered a direct tunnel connection from the Big Island to Mount Shasta with this connection of the inner earth beings. So we have these lava tube tunnels here on this island. And now, generally, I work with my dragons to go down there. And as a civilization, they are in complete harmony with their environment, with each other. And why they're interested in coming to the surface in these light craft that they have is we've done a lot of really not great stuff to Mother Gaia. And so they are trying to do whatever they can to keep that all in balance. And I know that they're also very connected to the volcanoes. So their craft are able to go in and out of the volcanoes, in and out of the mountains, and then also in and out of the water. And really, they're helping to balance as much as they can surface with underneath, because whatever we're doing here on the surface directly will impact what's going on inside of Earth. And a lot of these other beings that are visiting us or watching over us, they're also part of our family. We have them in our DNA. So they're watching over us kind of parent like, but they can't intervene against our free will. And so the more that we know who they are, that they're here for us, that we are part of them, then we can ask for that connection and feel like, okay, yes, we are part of this greater galactic community and family. And it helps us really operate in a different state here on Earth, living as humans.
At Shasta, I had experience in Telos with three beings on the other side of this rock that were activating me. Then they allowed me to see the whole city. That was in 2020. It was winter solstice. The mountain literally called, and usually these places call me in the dream time. So I was already visiting, I would say, in the astral. And then there was like the physical arrival with my husband. We had some really magical experiences with this cloud emanation that came out to talk as well, and they were shape shifting. That's where I started bringing light language after that to different communities. That was part of their instructions to me, being an ambassador and having everyone reconnect to this expression. But the other part is that you say in the mountaintops of Lemuria, Hawaii. So the mountaintops of Atlantis are the Azores Islands of Portugal. And I had experience there a few years ago too. And it was very clear these are the mountaintops. I felt there were tunnels there too. Then later, I was guided to go to Iceland a year or so after. And we were sitting in one crater with one friend who's Portuguese and another friend from here. And we also had a lot of experiences with dragons. Actually, the first podcast of the Soul Communication is all about that. I remember we were sitting in one of these craters and we had this experience as though we went through the lake to the other side and we crossed over to Azores. Felt like it was some sort of also light tunnel between these two islands and spaces. So I'm wondering, and I would imagine that Garza network is all very interconnected,
Yeah.
that there's many more of these
Oh,
tunnels.
yeah. There, what I understand, so Talos is the city in Mount Shasta, and so those beings tend to be called Talosians, but they're
Mhm.
all Agarthans or
Right.
inner Earth people. There's also a major city under the Aegean Sea, and
Ooh.
then also in Asia, Shambhala. You've got these major cities, but then you have smaller, probably communities, and this whole tunnel system all over Earth connecting these different groups. And again, they operate in a different kind of frequency than we do. So they're able to travel in a very different way. What's interesting is that their craft, from at least the descriptions that people here in Hawaii have given for their craft that are coming in and out of our volcanoes and the water, they tend to be more light craft, like energy kind of craft, as opposed to like metallic, physical kind of looking craft. They are blue or green or white light energy. What's so interesting is that there is a suspected underwater ET base off the southern part of our state. And that's where the majority of these craft are seen, as the southern tip. It's called South Point here on the Big Island. But we have the activity around all sides of the island and the other islands as well. It's interesting because people, I think, are so used to these craft being here and being visible here in Hawaii. Not a lot of people report it. It's very different than someone who might want to report it to a MUFON type of agency. We have portals and vortexes, and we have, like Sedona, we have these craft that are showing themselves all the time. When I first moved here, I had a few people tell me the veil between dimensions is thinner here. And I know that there are places like Sedona where that is true as well, where it's not as dense, where you can't experience the craft in the same way. And really, seeing the physical craft is not really the important thing. However, it does plant seeds in people's minds. It's that inner connection that we have, because the more deep that we can go within ourselves, the more that we can connect with these higher dimensional galactic beings and really understand who we are.
So you connect into these particular ones from the inner earth. They have a certain role and task. And then there's other ones that visiting from other systems that are different in their energy and vibration.
So basically, Lemuria was said to have spanned from Easter Island here through the Polynesian Islands, down through Indonesia, Micronesia to New Zealand. And that civilization was being directly taught by the Pleiadians. They were teaching their wisdom to the humans, the Lemurians. And what's really interesting about that is that all of these Pacific countries, the islands, as well as Australia, Japan, the Southeast Asian countries, they all have their origin stories, their native origin stories, saying that they come directly from the Pleiadians. Those are their direct ancestors. So there's this rich history with the Pleiadians, and the Pleiadian craft are here all the time. I have pictures and videos of them. Other places that I've gone. So when I was in Peru, the Sirian craft were showing up, same as in Egypt. And one of the things that I think I was sharing with you when we were recording you, one of the lives that I had was as a Sirian genetic engineer during the time of the building of the pyramids.
Mhm.
And my job was to send this sound frequency energy down from the craft to activate the DNA in the humans to reorganize it so that they could run more energy through their bodies and hold more consciousness and learn how to do things like the sound thought levitation of these megalithic stones that you and I have been able to experience.
Yeah.
There's so much.
There's so much for sure. And if you ask the Native Americans here in the United States, because I've interacted with some Native American tribes like Lakota tribe, they too very much correlate their star lineage to Pleiadian system as well. And the Mayans, of course, the Maya, there's a Maya star, so that's where the Mayans are from, also from Pleiadian system. I feel like the Pleiadians very involved in Lemuria, but also United States and probably South America as well.
Yeah, definitely. The Syrians were also very important with the Mayan culture, the super ancient Egypt culture, and then a different group with the Dogon tribe in Africa.
When I think of Syrians, I'm always thinking of the pyramids because I think that structure and the geometry was very much Syrian instructed.
Yes. And
Master architect.
yes. And so what was interesting is that, so my group, we were in our spaceships upgrading the body, the human body. But then there were other Syrians on boots on the ground teaching the humans how to do the sound thought levitation. And it was actually during the time of the building of the pyramids. They were also teaching them astronomy, medicine, agriculture, things of that nature. Now, what was interesting is that we had a simultaneous experiment going on a different planet, not in the solar system, but somewhere else, where we were upgrading the body, we were upgrading the DNA of those people, but we were not directly teaching them anything. We were not boots on the ground interfering with them whatsoever. It was more of a passive thing. And what was really interesting to see with these two experiments of Earth versus this other planet was that those that we did not interfere with directly, they stayed so much more in tune with their environment, with nature. Their spirituality just kept growing, and they were really this beautiful civilization, similar to the Avatar movies, the Na'vi, very similar to that, where they're just fully connected.
There is a planet in the Sirian system. It's a different name close to Navi, actually resides. So it's a true planet, like James Cameron just
Yeah.
downloaded in his dream or whatever ceremony that he did.
Right. Just like George Lucas from the Orion Wars.
Absolutely.
So whether maybe they both experienced lives there, they likely did,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
again, yeah, just downloading, but I think it's memories that they're bringing forth. When the ETs were actively working with the humans here, so I got to see was that the technology outgrew the spirituality. That's when we have these cataclysms happening multiple times throughout Earth's history. And so this is the time where now we're on the verge. We have all these nuclear weapons once again.
If we don't learn this time around, it's going to be repeat again. That's the worry. The Atlantean civilization destroyed Lemurian civilization because of
Yes.
the ego and the zest for technology and some crystals that they didn't
Right.
have anymore. And they started doing some genetical manipulations and all types of things that we see today happen in real time right now with how the DNA been tampered with the recent activity.
That's the thing. We can look at what is going on in the world from very different perspectives. The Arcturians specifically, they want to remind anyone who's willing to listen is you get to choose what timeline you want to be a part of, because there are multiple Earth timelines that are existing. So there's Earth that's already shifted to a fifth dimension, and we're all living in love and harmony and unity, and there's no more of the polarized judgment. And then there are Earths where people are stuck in the fear, the warring, the disease, that side. And so, really, what they want people to know is focus on what you want to create in your life. Turn your attention away from the things that are not resonating with that. And so 3 years ago, they very clearly told me I had to stop following politics. I had to completely stay away from the news and the media and anything that was going on like that. Now, for me, that was hard to do at first because Lisa, my ego, had very strong opinions about things in terms of the politics and equal rights and all things like that, that I even used to be an activist about. I used to march and do things. And they're like, you cannot do that because that you're creating more polarization the more that you are in that. And you've had your time, that's fine, but this is not your job anymore. Your job is to really create your own environment where you are living in that state of joy. You're following your passions. You take time to play, and you're really doing the deep. I've been doing healing work most of my life, but it's like an onion. It's deeper and deeper. The more that we're doing that, then we're able to get over whatever traumas, whatever stories we're
I
making up
feel
that we think are real, but they're not. It's just a story. And we also are able to get over our own judgment of ourselves. And the more that we can get over our own judgment and really understand our worth and our love, then when we can come from that place, then we stop judging other people and judging what they're doing, their opinions. It doesn't matter. Everyone's on their own unique soul journey. And there is no right or wrong timing. Some people are meant to be here and really experience that fear-based polarized reality. Others are meant to be here and they can't handle the vibration of Earth, so they're checking out, dying.
many souls checking out right now because
They
they
are.
know it's they know what's ahead of us. So
Yeah.
not everyone wants to be here, or sometimes they feel like they're more helpful from the other side too.
Yeah. Actually, my husband just over a year ago committed suicide, and
Mm.
completely out of the blue. And the next morning after it happened, I was like, I was communing with the trees. I was just looking at their energy and I'm like, what just happened? And the message that I got was that for me to be able to fully step in and do the work that I'm here to do, I had to have a massive timeline shift where he couldn't be there physically anymore. Now, what's interesting about that is, so I have a lot of psychic medium friends. And so he's come through multiple times through these different people. And his messages have been about, I couldn't support you physically the way that you needed to be supported here on Earth. I can do so much more from the other side. And part of what he couldn't do is he really cared about politics and he always watched the news and he was always in this kind of polarized reality. And here I'm trying to be not polarized. I'm trying to create my environment. And he also didn't, even though he loved and supported me, he didn't fully understand what I was teaching and the whole spiritual side. And so he would hold me back. Like I was holding myself back just to keep things good with our relationship. And so now I don't have to do that. And he has said from the other side that everything that you're doing, everything that you understand, it's real. Keep doing it.
Mm. Wow, Lisa, thank you for sharing that. That's so powerful. Just for anyone who's listening and has lost a dear one recently, whether from the pandemic or from their own choices, I think we really need to honor and respect those choices and those soul contracts because they also have their own journeys. And it's just so beautiful that he's communicating right now and validating for you that you're not crazy, Lisa. You've been doing this all along in the right direction, and that now he's really able to understand it from the other side. But here he got distorted. There's so much noise. And I totally agree with you. Politics is incredibly noisy. And I come from the regions where right now there's most noise. Like I come from Belarus, from Soviet Union area, all the whole thing with Ukraine and the whole Israeli thing. I grew up in Israel. So those are the hottest areas right now in the world. The messages from my higher self, from my council, has been so strong about keeping neutrality.
Mhm.
Don't even engage. And I live in a very Jewish town. It's so interesting. Like I just drive by and if there's a protest, I'm sending them all love. I just know that my role is to keep the neutrality and send them love and compassion and know that judgment is something that needs to be worked through. Not to say that it's not true, it is happening. These regions are experiencing these things. And so my heart goes out to both sides. There's that push and pull energy that is
Yeah.
very dense in 3D, which
Right.
is the only way you can, and that's why the governments do it the way they do. So unfortunately, the people get really sucked into that density, into that vibration, unless they step out of it. Everyone has their own journey, and we have to go through this transition. Some of these hot areas on the consciousness level have to resolve themselves.
That's what we're here to do, integrate that polarity
Yeah.
and really rise above. Some of us are going to be able to do that, and others are not ready yet. And it's okay. Whatever someone's journey is, it's all okay because everything is existing simultaneously. And we all really do have choice of what we want to experience. And so, even some of the people in these war torn areas, we can have compassion for them, but know that they chose that experience before they came in. They wanted to experience that. We all come in to experience different things and to be everything, to feed that information back to source.
We're here to enjoy every moment too, if we can. Back to the choices, right? If we have the choices to change our environment or change the interactions we have with some people, they're toxic, they're not serving us anymore. We also have choice to put boundaries and say, that doesn't serve me anymore. Maybe it's time to open a new chapter and create a reality of the vibration I'm at.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the chapters in my Connection to the Cosmos book is being a tourist here on planet Earth, because I do feel like even though I've chose a lot of really hard lessons that I've come through, I'm the continual rising phoenix, whether it's relationships, careers, financial, I've lived some really challenging things. And I can still be very grateful for being here on Earth. I've traveled the world. I love exploring cultures and, again, biodiversity and really helping people to understand this diversity is a beautiful thing. We have
Sure.
so much we can learn from each other.
So much. And today, as we're recording, what once used to be called the Columbus Day is now officially being called the Indigenous Peoples Day, which I love so much more.
Yes.
And just before we came on, I remembered about this beautiful project called The World in Faces that a photographer and a friend is doing. He's going around the world and taking pictures of these different indigenous tribes, and some of them actually disappearing because everything's changing so much and not every tribe can sustain itself. But just knowing that the diversity is beautiful and there's evolution in ancient wisdom that we can learn from them. And we have to always be respect and reverence to the fact that they always knew how to take care of Mother Earth, but we unfortunately lost touch with her.
The more that we can get back to nature, the more that we will heal ourselves and her.
Thank you, Lisa, so much. Hopefully we get to get your book soon in next few months or whatever it comes out. But do check out the current books that Lisa has, The Wisdom of the Galactics and Connection to the Cosmos. So I'll be listing all of those. Any other things you want to mention, your website and any courses that are upcoming?
Yes. The best way to find information is at drlisajthompson.com or mysticmanta.com. They will direct you to the same site. So that's where all of my services and products. I do have a Galactic Ascension Channel certification program coming up in February that I'm teaching online. So for anyone that might be in the healing field already who wants to add on to your service or really amplify what you do, that's something I'm going to be offering. And then I'm leading my next Galactic retreat here on the Big Island, April 30th to May 4th of 2025. And that's a really deep dive into really enhancing your clair abilities, doing telepathy, remote viewing, and then really connecting with your galactic family and guides and understanding your multidimensional self, truly.
Lisa, you mentioned you have the special night goggles that you take people
Yeah.
on tours to see the ships that we talked about.
Yeah. And I also have bigislandUFOtours.com. So if you're coming to Hawaii any time of the year, specifically the Big Island, Kona side, not Oahu, people get confused with the islands all the time. It's very interesting. But we use Generation 3 military night vision goggles to look at the night sky. And I train you how to identify all the known moving objects because they all have very predictable behavior. And so once you know what that behavior is, then you can really start to see the unusual, unknown kind of activity that's out there.
I want to take that course myself. We had recently a lot of aurora borealises, so we were out there watching, and it's good to know what's in the sky and identify. And I think it's probably easier in places like in Hawaii because you don't have the sky full of planes flying over every 3
Correct.
seconds.
Yeah, you're where you're located. You have just constant airplane activity.
If airplane activity is noisy. But yeah, if you have a chance to go to the Big Islands, which you should, it is a magnificent island. I visited once and hopefully I will be back to visit Lisa as well. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for your wisdom, and everyone get a book and get to learn about the galactics further.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. For more information, please visit the website tianadivine.com. We are offering different programs, workshops, retreats, as well as one-on-one work such as quantum healing hypnosis, crystalline cell healing, and more on sourcelanguage.org, offering a digitized course. It's self-paced, where you can open up to your divine gift of light language. I'm Diana MaAra Divine, and keep connecting with your higher